Hello, welcome back to How Not to Be an Asshole.
Good evening.
I'm your host, Todd.
I'm your other host, Dominic. Dan's here. Chili's in the background.
Fucking Dan's there. Hey,
What's up, Dan?
A little bit of housekeeping. Or actually, maybe, first, do you want to hear something?
What's that?
I picked up a bit of a bad habit during lockdown.
What's that?
I don't know how I ended up here, but I started watching all these police interrogation videos of like killers and like awful people, and it's real addictive because it's super interesting. And there's some people do videos where it'll be like a psychologist or something talking you through the police interrogation. So they're making all these notes and whatnot, talking about what the investigator's doing and what the accused is doing. And so at first I felt a bit weird about it because I was like, is this healthy behavior? And it escalated. And then some nights I find myself, I just putting them on as I went to sleep.
Yeah, no, that doesn't sound very healthy.
Yeah, but I feel like fine.
Well, that's good. What about that time that you watched the ISIS terrorist video and then you felt a bit funny after that, didn't you?
Oh, man,
You regretted that one.
Yeah, that affected me for a long time.
Yep, who would have thought?
Really fucked me up.
Fucking ISIS.
Yeah, they're bad guys. Whatever happened to them?
I think they all got murdered. Shot.
So,
Was it murdered when you're in a war? Killed.
I wouldn't want to...
Wouldn't want to speculate.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to pretend that I knew that because it's a little bit touchy.
All right, let's get this housekeeping out of the way. I'm stoned.
Okay, so due to scheduling issues, there won't be a bonus episode this week, but there will be one next week.
Yeah, there will be one. We've got it lined up and everything.
And we're doing something a little bit different. So that's exciting. And other exciting news, I just single-handedly secured a guest I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
One we've kind of like murmured about for a long time, and it's finally happening. And in the best way possible. What else?
Lord's coming on the podcast.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Can't wait to ask her about Royals. Like, what inspired you to write Royals? And what was the other thing? We've got a Patreon. If you want to be...
if you want to be a patron, you should get on there, support us, support Dan. Dan's got problems. We've all got problems. Dan's got problems too.
Yeah.
I've got a dog to support. And there's bonus content, and you can feel good about yourself for supporting three idiots doing something that they only vaguely like.
And we had a big week on the Patreon as well, I think. So we ought to
8 new subscribers.
We ought to thank Demi. We're nearly up to 60.
Thank you, Demi.
Oh, another note of interest. Former, you should see what Dom's doing when I raise another point. Past guest Kaya Spark, who is running in Rotorua for the seat there in the coming election. Her opponent Todd McClay, he came out today defending use of a Confederate flag at the Speedway.
I saw that.
So, like, if you're in that area and you have a vote to give, I just can't fathom why you would give it to this Todd character and not to Kaya. Like, and if you haven't
Nationals going full racist, eh?
Yeah, they really
full
are.
White supremacy.
Yeah, I
really
guess...
putting their eggs in that basket.
Yeah, they've, like, kind of painted themselves into a corner, and now they're just like, fuck, we got nothing. So, they're doing really strange shit. Yeah, thank you for all your patronage, your listens. Follow us on the Twitter, the Instagram, all that shit. And let's do this episode.
Play the music, Dan. Welcome back. A little bit older, a little bit uglier.
We couldn't get another producer, so Dan's back as well.
Look at this, Dan.
We can divulge all this now.
This is what Todd's been itching to get into.
I didn't necessarily like him, but I respected him.
Well, everyone needs jewelry.
He's a maniac.
Further to him crippled.
This is an audio podcast, Don.
Sure. What do you think, Dan? All right. Do you want to do the intro, Todd?
I'd love to. Today, I always say it feels better to say today's guest rather than tonight's.
They don't know.
Nah. Today's guest is Elyssia Renee Wilson-Heti. She is an actress, a blogger, an activist, and a member of FAF Swag. And a mother.
Man, there's a lot of things.
It is a lot of things. Many hats.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just trying to get the questions up and also be able to see you guys at the same time.
You look like... I know, it looks like you got your jersey pulled up over the back of your head. Like, I know, like you're a kid who wants to go to space camp.
It's fucking cold, man.
It is cold.
And David's in the room with the fire, so I got to be in here with the dog and the heater.
Oh, it's bullshit.
Sweet. All right, I can see my questions now. Not that they're particularly amazing anyway.
Take it away, Tom.
Okay, sweet. Oh, shit, sorry, hold on.
This is a mess.
Dan, can you make a note to cut this out?
Getting there.
Whoa. Every time, Elyssia, I say, Dan, cut it out, and he just doesn't. And it makes me sound even more foolish, because not only have I left some dead air, but then I've asked for something to be done, and it's just not done.
Hey, I don't think the listeners by this point come to us for the competent professionalism.
You don't reckon? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Are you back at the basement?
I am. So I was in the office for the first time last week, just readjusting to office life. And I did some work around the venue today. So it's just been, getting back into the habit of being in space with other people, really.
What's your role at the basement?
So I'm doing the producer's residency there this year, which has slightly shifted a bit because of, COVID. But it's been a really good time, and I feel like I've learned quite a lot so far, which is good.
Yeah, it must be such a cool place to work. I mean, especially when events are taking place, but still.
Yeah, well, it's buzzing all the time. And so when I first started my residency, a couple weeks after, we were straight into Pride and then Auckland Arts Festival stuff and Fringe, and so it was all go, which was cool.
It's sort of like one of the last venues standing in Auckland, eh? It's like there in Whammy Wine Cellar.
Yeah, I think so. They're kind of a little bit more dirty and alternative, I suppose.
Well, kind of like where you'd want to perform. Well, at least for what I do anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And they've got quite a good community base as well, which is nice.
So has Dom ever told you about, it's probably not his first theatre experience, but my first one? We went to theatre for rich white people, and so we went out to get some outfits that day because we didn't.
Right. I was wondering which time you were talking about.
And
were you trying to be bougie theatre boy? Is that what you?
Well, no, this was like a red carpet, like at this big huge theatre in Melbourne.
Yeah, everyone was in tuxedos.
Yeah,
and Dom looked like a porn star from the 70s that no one wanted to fuck, and I looked like a guy going to court.
Well, that's a look, right?
I thought I looked quite good. I had these salmon pants on and this white shirt, and I had these dress. That's what I had, these dress shoes on, but they were too small. And then halfway through the night, I just took them off and lost them. So I was just barefoot at this fucking
gala
event.
What were you watching?
The Importance of Being Earnest.
Oh, yeah.
Our friend Emily Barkley was in it, so she got us tickets, and it was on New Year's, so it was like a special rich people thing.
Starring Jeffrey Rush.
Was it? Yeah, we got to meet Gregory Rush. He turned out he was a bit of a scumbag, though, eh?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
he had that vibe about him.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I can't distinguish that vibe in those places because it's not my space. So I was just like, oh, maybe he's just a thespian,
rather than being a creepy prick.
Yeah.
Oh, there's definitely a few creepy pricks amongst the community, I would say.
Amongst the thespians.
Yeah.
Have you always been into theatre?
Aren't they? Pardon?
What's that?
They're kind of everywhere, aren't they? They're kind of the creepy old dudes are kind of everywhere.
Oh,
you hear that, Dan?
Yeah.
Have you always been into theatre?
Yeah, to be honest, I have. Like the way I met Chanu is we met at drama school. So we were doing the Pacific. We were at the first version of PIPA, I guess, which was at Best Training. It wasn't PIPA then; it was just Best Training. And so that's where I first met Chanu, who is one of the founders of FAFSWAG, and we just have been friends ever since. And then I went on to go and start my performing arts degree at Unitech, but then I got pregnant with my big boy, so I left and kind of haven't looked back. I've just been slowly doing stuff with my friends, really.
Yeah.
I can't picture Tanu at theatre school because I've only spent time with him once, and it was when we were podcasting. But he, like, out of the group, he seemed like the serious character, so I can't imagine him playing theatre sports and shit.
Well, he was doing with the course that we did at Best Training. It was kind of just a snippet of everything. Which I think definitely pushed Tanu out of his comfort zone. But he's definitely not a performer.
Right,
he's more of a behind-the-scenes kind of dude. Yeah.
Okay. So I thought my perception might just be off because I just had a brief window into...
Nah, he's the brains of the operation.
Yeah.
Did you come up when we had FAFSWAG on the podcast?
Mm-mm.
No, I didn't. I think I was busy with my son at the time, probably. Yeah.
We'll accept that.
There were so many people. Because I was
There was a few of them, eh?
Yeah, because I was hitting Tanu up to come on for ages, and I could tell that he was kind of like, oh, what even is this? And then he was like, all right, we'll come up, but we're all going to come up. And I was like, yeah, all good. And then it was like, how many people? Like 8 or 9 people. And Dan's like, because that's when we used to do it all together in Dan's little house. That was an awesome podcast.
Yeah.
It was an awesome podcast.
It was terrifying at first because I was like, man, we're still learning how to do it. It's like, how are we going to podcast like 10 people at once? But it worked.
Yeah, no, it was all good.
Elyssia, do you have a favorite show you've seen from a local writer or performer?
I would have to say, I don't know if this is... Oh, it is considered local because they're an Australian group of women with a lot of Pacific women in it. But Hot Brown Honeys was probably one of my most favourite things that I've seen ever, actually.
Oh, yeah. Where in Australia are they from?
I think they're from all over the show.
Okay.
But they came and performed their show here in, would have been 2017, I think. And at that point, I'd just been doing a lot of producing and behind-the-scenes stuff with FAFSWAG. I hadn't quite stepped back into the performance space. Yeah. And I watched that show and I was like, fuck yes, this is the kind of work that I want to make. I want to make this kind of work. Yeah. So that kind of gave me the itch to want to like start performing again.
Yeah, so
cool.
Yeah.
And is that kind of what inspired Reclamation?
Definitely. And I did a show with, I got asked to be a part of an ensemble cast for a work that was in Fringe a couple years ago called The Plastic Orgasm, which was looking at like female sexuality and desire, and also looking at how women are represented in mainstream pornography. And so we did that show, and then I was like, I'm not finished investigating this. Like, I want to make a sexy show. And so that's where Reclamation kind of was birthed from, was this, I hadn't finished having that conversation and what that looked like. And specifically, I wanted to know, what does female sexuality and desire look like through a brown female lens?
Yeah.
Was that a solo show?
No, that was an ensemble work where there was 4 of us that created the work together, and it was a part of the Visions project, which was run through Basement.
Yeah.
So a repeat offender of Basement development.
I just had a flashback because I feel like heaps of, I don't know, I was real sheltered from cultural experience such as theatre till I got quite old. And then we had that experience I explained earlier, which was a rude introduction. But I just flashed back, Dom, to when we went and saw Jess's show.
What was it called? Fuck. I can't remember it. So Jess Holly Bates show. Do you know the one, Elyssia?
I'm not sure which one I'm familiar with Jess's work. I don't think I've seen
something
that.
nipple, something.
Oh yeah, so we'd grown friends with Jess, and we went to the show, and just the opening of the show, she comes out and like her and the other person performing both just had their vaginas out and were singing a song with their vaginas, and I was like, I think we took teenagers to it as well.
Yeah, we did.
We took all these.
We took the kids that we worked with.
We took all these teenagers, and it was like felt like you had to have a talk to them, but didn't know what to say.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, it was.
It was an awesome show. I think after you've been to a few theatre shows, that kind of thing is like a water off a duck's back. But the first few times, it's like, oh, this isn't like a rap show or something. This is, it's a bit different.
I wasn't ready. And like, I was like, that's my friend's vagina. Am I supposed to be looking at it? Because that's the focal point of the show.
Yeah, I remember you were sort of uncomfortable. Yeah, it was to say, Todd, we took some of the kids from Atawhai to reclamation, and we didn't realise quite how sexual it would be. Yeah, and it was all good because we have quite open talks about sex with the kids, and the kids are all real open to sexuality and stuff. So it wasn't like a complete. But there's a couple of times where I was like, man, I hope they don't repeat this to their parents. Is
that how do you feel about that, Elyssia? Like, discussing or investigating sex through art, and then access to young people, because young people are kind of sheltered too much from like real discussions about sex often, right?
Yeah, quite honestly, like when I look back to the sex ed that I had in high school when it was many moons ago, guys, I really cringe at just how bullshit it was.
Yeah,
actually, and that I didn't gain anything from it. Like, cool, don't get STDs, don't get pregnant, and like, okay, periods, cool. But there was nothing about pleasure or consent or desire or, the idea of female masturbation. Like, absolutely not. That is not a discussion that was had. And so I think they're necessary conversations that should be being had with our young people. And I think through having those discussions through art, it makes it quite accessible to people.
Yeah, I think so. And there wasn't anything in the play, like it wasn't gratuitous or anything. It was, just, it was awesome. But and I don't think, but it's just one, anyway.
It's similar to drugs and young people, right? You never you feel like you don't ever really get told the whole truth.
No, you just get told they're terrible and bad and don't take them without actually being told you can take them once you are an adult and you are responsible to take them. But then I don't know many responsible adults, truthfully, that use recreational drugs. So I don't think we have that conversation around, actually it's a real fucking fun time. Like when you're with your friends and it's safe, great old time and it's wonderful. So I think that's a conversation that needs to be broached a bit more too.
My mate in Australia did his PhD on the positive effects of drugs. So that was like, interpersonal stuff. So, being close with your partner or taking acid and learning things. But he was also looking at it as a sort of wider cultural context. And it was really fascinating. Yeah. And even though, I've done quite a lot of drugs in my life, I'd never really thought about how positive they were. There's always that underlying guilt when you do drugs. Even if you do have a great time, you're like, oh, fuck, I'm a loser. And when he talked about it, I was like, oh, no, maybe I'm not.
Yeah, so there's a lot of...
I'm a real square peg, but I tried MD for the second time when I watched Lizzo, and it was a life-changing experience, guys. I was like, oh my God, why did I not do this earlier? This is amazing.
Oh, man. Yeah, I was talking to someone recently who, I think it was MD they tried for the first time, like as an adult, and I was just like, oh, wow, that's crazy, Like,
that would be exciting to have enough serotonin left to enjoy MD.
Yeah, my parents were relatively conservative when it came to like drugs when I was a young person, so. My mum and dad were like, just don't do them. ever. Period. Never.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
and that worked.
And it worked. I was like, okay, Mama, I'll never do that, I promise.
I was talking with a friend. She listens to the podcast too, actually. And she's from a conservative background. And she was like, we're having this discussion. I forget how we got there, but it's a weird discussion to have. But it was about her mother's libido. And she was like, her mother had told her that she'd only slept with her dad and stuff. And I don't know, like maybe it's true. I was like, but your mum would have been horny. Like that's just biology. And she's probably telling you a version of her sexuality that she wants you to believe, and she just refuses to believe it. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. That's damn near impossible, isn't it?
Which part's impossible? That she only slept with her dad?
Oh, yeah, maybe that's not impossible, but...
Yeah, because you totally end up in that situation, though, where you, like, marry someone young and then...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different generational thing, right?
Yeah, hard out.
Sure. But I still don't believe many people
You don't believe her mum? Well, we should get her mum on the podcast and we can get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I don't think she'd like that. Shout out to that friend who's probably listening.
Yeah, shout out, friend. Talking about your mum's sex life.
Imagine approaching that day. Like, I was just wondering. I've been told by your daughter that
Yeah,
you might be wondering why we got you on the podcast. It's a funny story.
your daughter thinks you weren't horny.
Could you clarify that for us, please? Oh, that's so fun.
Oh my goodness.
Going back to sex ed, in my high school we had too much sex ed. Like, my parents are like real, like, you know, I don't want to use the term liberal, but, you know, relaxed about things. And they like gave me a book about sex ed when I was like 10 and was like, you know, if you're going to have sex, have it in the house, just use condoms, all that kind of stuff. But even they were like, you're having too much sex ed. You don't need this much sex ed. You're only like 13. Like, what the fuck? You know, it was like every week we would have a sex ed. It was called social ed, but it was pretty much always just about sex.
Man, that feels... Surely that's an uncommon experience for most people.
Yeah, well, because it was Western Springs, which at the time was a weird kind of hippie school.
Very horny school.
Horny school, yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool, though, because by the time you get to have sex, you're like, I know, there's no surprises, you know? It's like,
I know everything.
All about this, yeah. I've done all the theory.
Glad nothing can surprise you in the bedroom, Dom. Or wherever your liberal school told you to do it.
Oh, not in front of Dan, Todd.
Sorry, Dan.
No worries.
One thing that what was I thinking about? Sorry, I had an edible before, and I was thinking it would kick in after the podcast, but it's.
I knew that was coming.
Did you know? Sorry.
We could sense that. We could sense that.
I've got this really good edibles hookup, but it's fucking ruining my life. Like, because they're really tasty, and you just think. And normally, anyway, we don't need to talk about that. But I was thinking about that J.K. Rowling. You know that statement she put out. Do you guys?
Yeah.
God, I didn't even read it. I couldn't bring myself to read it.
I haven't read it either. I saw a bit of it though.
I read parts of it, and you can, you know, I'm sure the listeners know. I guess if you don't, J.K. Rowling is an anti-trans turf piece of shit, and her books suck. But they do, though. They really do. And I hope this is the end of the infantile Harry Potter, like, adults referencing it. Like,
I know so many people with Harry Potter tattoos.
Yeah.
I'm sorry
People
to say.
love them from Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
Which is whatever. But it's just amazing, though, to me that she to be she's one of the richest women in the world, right? She's like a billionaire. You've had success which is just unimaginable, and yet you want to fucking, like, you know, bully and use your fame to bully, like, the most sort of, like, vulnerable members of our society. It's just like, the fuck is wrong with you? You know, like,
what was the statement?
It was essentially, she was, the gist of it from what I understood was she was saying that trans women are taking something away from a woman born female. I hope I'm
Yeah,
wording
and
this
then
correctly.
she kind of went on further as well, just from like the little bits that I've seen online, that it brought up the whole bathroom conversation again around how trans women shouldn't use female bathrooms because they're actually just men and they're predators and a whole bunch of yuck shit. And I'm like, oh, come on. Come on.
Yeah.
Why?
I thought that bathroom shit was dead, right?
Yeah, and I saw this heartbreaking article that this trans woman wrote about how when she travels, she's too scared to use the bathrooms in airports and stuff like that. And I was just like, and you know, it's just so. And this fucking billionaire.
Yeah.
But but the other thing that's fucked up about it is that people have, like, I have never read a Harry Potter book. I've read maybe 50 pages of the first one. I fucking hate them. But I know that she's a fucking piece of shit for years. You know, like she's pro-Israel. She's like, you know, like she's been saying that turf shit for a while. And then everyone now is like, oh my God, what a surprise.
Yeah, I really don't know why people were so surprised, because she's been saying some really whack shit about trans women for quite some time. Like, this isn't a new narrative for her. Like, she's been hammering on about this for a while. But it's also just that thing of like white feminism. Really a good example of just yucky white feminism and how they actually don't look at the world through an intersectional point of view. That's really like one or the other.
Yeah.
And it's just a bit gross, really.
It definitely reeks of extreme privilege, right? Like,
yeah,
because
very much so.
She got no reason to do that, but she just thinks that her opinion's real important. So,
yeah, and I just find, like, in the current climate of what we've been kind of globally going through, and then you look at the, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement and the conversations being had there, and then you still got this kind of pocket of white feminists who are like, what better time than when these people are experiencing like a mass global trauma? It would be a perfect time to also add some more fuckery into the mix by like just being transphobic and gross. Like, what a better time to do that, you know?
yeah. It's so crazy. Bringing it closer to home, did you all see that preacher in Christchurch?
That was one I couldn't bring myself to watch, but I got the gist of it.
I haven't actually watched it. I've just seen it on my feed, and I'm like, I don't have time for that today.
Yeah, sorry to bring it up, but it's just, so my flatmate, just before I came on, he was like, have you seen that? And I was like, yeah, I saw that today. And it's so insane. The shit he is saying is just like, but the way he's delivering it, it's like he's doing stand-up comedy in this church. And he's doing all these like cheap laughs. Like, he's talking about white people wanting to be black, and he's like talking about them sagging their pants. It's like, bro, that's a joke from 20 years ago. But like the audience is laughing at him, and it like really illustrates this position of power he has, because you're in a church, right? And from what I understand, in a hierarchy sense, the person speaking, you're supposed to listen to them and believe them. And then he's saying all this awful shit. Like, the pants thing is obviously just nonsense, but he's saying some pretty harmful things about gay and trans people. And yeah, it's just fucking wild to see, like, in this year. And then people like cracking up, laughing at him, and he's like getting off on it, like this reaction. It was disgusting, man. Like, I hope.
When are we going to stop giving them the tax breaks? Just the government just needs to be like, no, you guys got to pay taxes now. Sorry, and we're taking a lot of your property off you, because you know they own all the churches own like so much property.
Yeah.
Like heaps of Auckland's owned by the church.
It's the punching down that really is wild to me, especially when you think of like what religion is meant to teach you. And there seems to be a real disconnect between those messages and then the people who are in power within those organizations, who you're like, what? What? Like, I'm so confused. I thought you were like having these conversations around kindness and empathy and looking after each other and no one getting left behind. You're just mean cunt, actually.
Yeah. Well, that is funny, right? Because I bet if you ask that same guy, like, what were the principles of Jesus's ministry, he'd tell you, compassion, kindness, looking after those in society who have it the hardest, and then still just fucking be an awful prick. Like,
do you think it's that thing we're talking about the other podcast, though, is it's power, right? Once people get power, it just sort of, or maybe he's always a piece of shit, but because I think maybe it's not just people that get power, maybe it's people that are attracted to power, I think, as well, are generally not the best.
Yeah,
not the most savory characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? Like, I don't, like, punching down is an interesting topic because I guess it kind of like rears its head in a few different ways. Like there's a crabs in the bucket punching down, which is a bit more understandable, not any better, but then there's like people in positions of power who choose to punch down. And I don't know, like, you know that my stepdad brought me up and he like always taught me to root for the underdog. Like, and that was mainly through watching sports. And I was lucky to like, but like I grew up that way and someone influenced me that like, go for the loser, go for the, and I don't know, there's so much joy and pleasure in that. And there's so much joy and pleasure in fucking attacking or fighting people with power. Like that feels fucking good. It can't feel good to punch down.
Well, the thing is too is that it's really like an act of violence, right? Like when you're actually choosing to have these kind of opinions of other people and move through the world that way, it's quite a violent way to actually navigate space, to be, because there's real consequences for that. Do you know what I mean? Like when you look at the trans community who are targeted in every which way possible, and there is like this global genocide of trans women, it seems just fucking tone deaf to me that you would think that's inappropriate to still have these opinions of these people. Like, I don't get it. It really grosses me out.
Yeah, that's important to iterate that idea of violence, because so many people were like, oh, it's just a person having an opinion. It's like, no, there's actually real ramifications to speaking that way. Well,
that's it. And you know what they say about opinions, eh? It's that whole thing of everyone has opinions. Like, everyone has assholes. Like, come on. Just because you have an opinion, it doesn't mean that it's right. Yeah. And at least have an informed opinion. That's the thing that has been really wild to me, I think, during the lockdown period, was going into this digital space and going, oh, fuck, it's awful in here. All these very uninformed opinions about stuff that you actually know fuck all about, yet just stop. Just stop doing that yucky thing that you're doing. It's really unnecessary. Maybe read a book. Start there.
It is funny. Like, I've entertained myself, and like I understand there's privilege that comes with this, where I've been going into comment sections and I'm pretty impervious to but it's been a great time to troll people in the comment sections. And yesterday I saw this older white woman, and what was she talking about? It was to do with protests, I think, and she said something about BLM was started by the Black Panthers, who are a radical Muslim group, blah, blah, blah. And I just came back, I was like, well, they're not a Muslim group. Never were. And she made another real incorrect point. And I corrected her on both of them. And then I was just like, you don't know much stuff, do you? And she's like, well, I know a lot more than you. I've investigated and studied the Black Panthers extensively. And I was like, I spent a whole week with an original member of the Black Panthers, and he wasn't Muslim, has never been, and nor were his peers. Not that it fucking matters, but just, you know, you want to try and correct people.
the confidence of these people astounds me. I'm like, man, you're really out here saying this shit with your chest, and you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. Then she tried to tell. So she was like, at first I was like, oh, she really thinks she knows. But then she went on and started telling me that George Soros is like paying protesters. And
who is George Soros?
A billionaire, a really, really rich man. I don't know too much about him, but
I just see his name come up all the time.
Yeah, so I don't know too much about that conspiracy, but there was some fake ads made, and they've been debunked, been proven to be fake, that were getting posted around. That was like George Soros employing people for like $200 per.
Oh shit! I didn't know that. I've been to a protest recently. Should I invoice him?
Yeah, exactly. Where's my Soros?
Protesting. I've been protesting for free. Fuck that.
Yeah,
this sucker.
Oh, but that underlying theory is he wants to cause racial disharmony. I'm not sure to what end. I'm sure they have some like reason that doesn't really make sense. That's the thing about heaps of these conspiracies is like, okay, what's the end game? What's the goal? And they never have good answers for that. And it's like, well, that's the most important thing you ought to answer is, okay, what government wants to preside over a fucking pandemic? None. So it's not a fucking like conspiracy of. I watched this doco. I watched a news clip the other day of it was in like the remote communities in Brazil, indigenous communities, and they interviewed people with COVID who had it. And then it showed them like digging a mass grave with all these coffins in it. And these people are so poor, so under-resourced. And it was incredibly sad, obviously. But it made me real fucking angry at people living in this part of the world who are like, oh, it's a hoax. It's a shadowy government conspiracy. And it's like, oh, you think these communities are in on the conspiracy?
Yeah.
And putting on a show? And they're like linked in with fucking Bill Gates and like, give me a fucking break. It's like, not only is it's like it really highlighted to me that it's not only fucking stupid to believe that shit, but it's actually it's real fucking heartless and awful.
Yeah.
Like people are suffering.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, people need to learn to read a room, right? Like, read a room. Read the room. What are you doing?
Also read between the lines, right? It's sort of like like all that stuff of Bill Gates wanting to inject people with fucking whatever the fuck, and it's sort of like Bill Gates is evil. Like you don't need to make shit up about him. He's a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like it's all it's
he doesn't need to microchip us either. Yeah. Like we all have telephones.
Or the Obama thing about him being from wherever, and he's a radical Muslim who's not really from America, and it's like. He's a war criminal. You don't need to invent the other part, like he's he got the bad thing.
Yeah. It's a very strange time to be living
on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's been quite a revealing time, hasn't it? Like that was my biggest takeaway from having to be at home and kind of getting stuck in yucky digital spaces and absorbing far too much and just really looking around going, oh, God, why?
Yeah.
Why are people so, like, come on, guys, do better. Like, it's not hard.
Can I ask how old your children are, Elyssia?
Yep. So my son Jude I have two sons. Jude is 10 and Lennox is 4. And then I have 2 stepchildren who are 13 and 14. So blended family. And it definitely keeps me busy, I'll tell you that.
I bet. So I was actually thinking today we haven't really had the opportunity to talk to a parent about parenting and during a pandemic, because I know my brother and sister, I'm pretty close with them. They have a son, and just like, this is a lot of time with our little guy, and that's just one. But how have you managed? And
It's actually been all good, But I did laugh because it got to a point in lockdown where my son actually looked at me and he goes, "No offense, Mum, I really love you, but I'm sick of your face."
Was that the 4-year-old?
No, that was the 10-year-old. He's like, "I'm really just sick of your face. Like, I just want to see my friends." I was like, "I get it. I want to see my friends too."
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my nephew, like, talking to him, he's only 6. And when I first got to see him, I wanted to kind of, see how he understood it and how it computed in his, like, 6-year-old brain. And he had a pretty good gauge of it. But yeah, that was a big thing for him. He was just he wanted to hang out with mates. He was poor little guy.
Yeah, well, my 10-year-old has a better social life than me. So he was like, "What do you mean I can't see my friends? What do you mean I can't go and just hang out with my cousins?" I'm like, "Sorry, bro, we have to stay home." But overall, it was actually a really cool experience. It was actually nice to spend some quality time with my children without having to think about 20 million other things that I need to be doing at any given time.
Yeah.
So it was actually a really nice time just to pause for a moment, even though I still worked through lockdown. So that was a bit confusing to my children. They were like, "What are you doing in front of your laptop? Like, are you actually working? Are you sure you're working?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm working. Can you leave me alone?" So many Zoom meetings of Lennox, who's my 4-year-old, just, hanging out in his undies. Getting on the Zoom. I'm like, "Oh, sorry, guys, don't mind him. He doesn't understand." But yeah, it was a good time. We definitely had a couple of curly moments where the kids were just like, "Get us out of this house. We're sick of it."
Yeah.
Overall, it was all good.
Yeah, fuck, I can't imagine. I had enough trouble looking after myself.
Yeah, I didn't have the dog, so that was hard.
Yeah.
Poor little thing. He's back now, though.
That's good.
He's just over here. You see him?
Oh, I love your dog.
Oh, do you like his dog?
Who doesn't like the dog? You're saying you don't like the dog, Todd?
When I came and saw your show, Dom, and we brought the photo home of your dog, my son, she walked around the house for a good week holding that photo. He's like, "I just need a dog, Mum. I need a dog."
Pomeranians are the best.
Oh my
I've really been trying to. All my friends have been getting dogs, and I was like, "Can you please get Pomeranians?" And they just won't. They keep getting shitty dogs compared to Pomeranians.
Yeah, no one wants that.
Hopefully they listen to this and realise that they fucked up.
No one wants that brand of dog.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Oh, they're the best.
When does the theatre open back up?
So our venue, it's looking like later on in the year. We're still a little bit unsure of when that is. And I'm not too sure about everywhere else. I think there's other venues outside of Auckland that have started reopening. I'm unsure if any are open in Auckland at this point. Yeah, that one's been a real interesting one because a lot of people have said to me, "Okay, so when's it all going ahead and when's everything happening?" I'm like, it's not that simple, guys. Artists are feeling really kind of uncertain about, taking those risks and having to produce work and put it out to the world. So I think, I really am unsure at this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would recommend to listeners who are in Auckland to, when the Basement Theatre opens again, to get along to shows. I've been to several shows there and sometimes just had no idea what I was going to see. But I've never been disappointed. You'll get something from a theatre show, especially like, I don't know, I guess I've only been to that one big theatre show that time. But I think going to a small, intimate theatre show is an experience you always get something from. It's so worthwhile.
Absolutely. And I think most of the artists that we program at Basement are independent artists, and they're just, pushing the boundaries and pushing the form and doing some really cool, crazy stuff, which is always really refreshing. You're never going to see something boring at Basement, that's for sure.
Nah. And if you're like myself, when I lived in Auckland, for many years, and I just would do the same thing all the time. But you can go to the theater and get pissed with friends, and and like
People get real pissed at the theater, don't
yeah,
they?
and your friends aren't fucking entertaining anymore. You've seen all their tricks. You can go get entertained by people who have actually put some effort into it. It's so great.
Do you find that you get more nervous performing in the theater than you do in other spaces?
Yes and no, to be honest. Like, no, actually, no, because I know what I'm walking into. When I've done like activations in more open spaces where I haven't had a certain level of control, then I've definitely felt more nervous.
I'm always so nervous in theaters.
It's very intimate, right?
But then it's same as if you do like a lot of poetry shows. I don't know what it is. Because like my normal shows, it's like nothing phases me. It doesn't matter. Everything can go wrong. I'm cool. But there, if I like I stumble a word or something, and then I'm just like everything spirals out of control, and it's fucking crazy.
Isn't that just a matter of like being more well practiced at one thing than the other?
I think it's also that people are paying attention to you in a way that they're not in other venues.
Yeah.
That's a fair statement.
Most of the audience have jobs, things like that.
Elyssia, I saw Putty talking about this on Twitter, but were you part of the contingent from Fast Swag that was supposed to go to Europe this year?
No, I would have loved to have gone and caused some trouble in Berlin, but because of because of the residency, no, I wasn't going to Berlin, but I was meant to be going to Sydney for the Sydney Biennale with the rest of Fast Swag. Which we didn't end up going, obviously, because of COVID, but we're in the process of creating digital works that will live online, which go live in August. So we're in the process of doing that. That's been interesting because I'm not a digital artist like at all. So having to try and navigate that space has been really interesting as well. And really overwhelming, to be honest with you. I'm like, I don't know anything about the tech.
Yeah.
This is not my forte. I'm a performance artist. I perform. Like, what do you mean I have to figure out how to use tech? Like, okay, all right, give it a go.
Oh, you don't just have an expert to handle that for you?
Well, with the way that we're delivering the work for the Biennale is that we've kind of made this joint work, and then we all individually have our own separate work that we'll be putting in. And when we were meant to be physically in Sydney, my work was going to be a performance work. And so I was trying to think, how can I put this into a digital space? And it's not, I just don't want to do that because I feel like it will lose a lot of the essence of that exchange that you have when you are watching a live performance. So I'm just back to the drawing board. I've got a couple of ideas of what I want to do, but now I just need to get it done.
Yeah. It's
stop procrastinating and get it done.
It's so different, and I think it's such a good learning to take from this experience is that art and community and the spaces it takes place in is so vital and important, and it can't be replicated digitally.
No, it really can't. And I mean, that's kind of my whole arts practice. I have a social, collective, community practice. That's kind of what I do. So it feels strange to not do that with such a significant work too. Like the Sydney Biennale is definitely a big deal. So not being able to really do what I do best feels like a little bit it does feel disappointing because, I was really looking forward to being able to share that space with the local
that would have been amazing
in Sydney. But it is what it is, and we just roll with the punches and you do what you do. And
what can you tell me, what is the Sydney Biennale?
So basically the Sydney Biennale is like a massive art exhibition. That's the best way I would describe it. And it's biannually, I think, from memory. I'm pretty sure it's been running for like 40 years. I could be totally lying to you right now.
That's fine. We don't know.
I'm guessing. I'm taking some stabs in the dark here. I probably should know that, guys, but anyway. And they just curate, like, from around the globe. And, like, I think in the Biennale this year, there was 97 artists from around the world. And only 3 of them were from New Zealand. So it was, like, a pretty big honour to be curated in the show. And I think it's the first year, once again, I could totally be wrong and talking up my ass. But I'm pretty sure this is the first year that they've had an Indigenous curator curate for the Sydney Biennale.
Sure.
So that was kind of something a little bit different this time around as well.
Yeah, amazing.
Going back to what about the online spaces, I think that was a real concern of mine with, everything going online and going on Zoom. And there's sort of like the good side of that is, you do realize that maybe you don't have to have fucking 50 meetings every day. Some of them can be by Zoom. But then there's sort of expectation, that artists are going to jump online, replicate what we do online. And that, because there is that argument that it devalues it. And I think that, it does in some ways, in other ways it doesn't, whatever. But I think also there's sort of, you can see a situation where people expect artists, to be able to do that whenever. So you can say, I want to book you, but I only want to book you online. Whereas, previously I don't think that would have been such a thing.
Yeah. And I think that expectation too for us to be super productive. Like that was the one thing in this COVID situation where I definitely could see that people were feeling pressured to be like, okay, you're at home. What are you doing? Nothing. Make work yesterday, make work now, make work tomorrow. Like, what are you making? When are you making it? Which I'm like, chill out. We are in a global pandemic. Like, what are you talking about? Eat some cake, watch some TV, have a cup of tea, chill the fuck out. Like, you do not have to be making work continually. Like, just take this moment to breathe and then make something if you want to. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. But I definitely felt that there was a lot of pressure on artists to just be like super hyper productive because you're at home and what else are you doing?
Yeah, I think that's a really real perception because I don't even like create anything anymore, but I still was aware of that. And it's like, mate, I didn't become an artist to be super productive. I did it.
You certainly didn't, Todd. And you achieved that goal.
Yeah, I fucking nailed it. Did you guys see the news? I think it came out yesterday or today. But the Christchurch shooter, did you see about the gun license he was granted?
No.
The details of that? So
No.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible negligence on the police force's part once again. But he'd been in the country 2 weeks when he applied for his gun license, and so the protocol or the process is you are supposed to have 2 character witnesses, and they have to reside in New Zealand, and one of them can't be a relative, I believe, and so. The first time they visited him, he gave relatives in Australia as references, and they were like, "Oh no, they don't suffice." So he gave them 2 referees who were people he knew from a fucking chat room, and the cops, a father and son, that he talked to in a chat room, which I can only imagine what sort of chat room it was, and the police fucking went and talked to those people and gave him a gun license.
Damn.
Like, so that whole shit probably could have been prevented by
Police doing your job.
Yeah.
Actually makes me feel quite ill.
It's awful. It's awful, isn't it? Like, actual people's lives. And I don't know, it sounds like probably laziness on the cops' part, or can't imagine what else. But because they went and did the interviews of these 2 people, and they should have just been like, oh, no, this doesn't meet the criteria. Sorry, you can't.
Oh, that smells about white, doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
oh,
For you know, if he wasn't pale, he wasn't getting that gun license.
Yeah,
absolutely not. Like, I can't imagine if his name was Mohammed, just throwing that out there, and he happened to be brown and had only been in the country for 2 weeks and was getting the reference to be some 2 dudes off the internet, that they'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? While you're at it, here's a couple of bombs. Like, knock yourself out.
Not only is that not protocol, that's a red flag.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's the thing. If you put that in a book, someone would be like, "No, it's too heavy-handed. You got to tone it down a bit," you know.
Yeah, like that's too silly. Like, it's preposterous. Fucking crazy.
This is the thing, It's like another very good example of privilege working in real time.
And people don't want...
That's really cooked.
Yeah. People don't want to acknowledge, like, that privilege exists. And it's just like, yeah, this maniac got a gun without going through the proper processes. Like,
that's
and just how fucking incompetent people in power are, you know?
Yep.
And that's the other thing that people don't want to acknowledge because it's just so fucking terrifying. Just to think that most of the people in power are just complete inept fuckwits.
Oh, I've got some other local news to share. Did you hear about the cop that slapped the 15-year-old girl?
No.
Okay. It's a very short news story, so I'll just run through it quickly because there's this line in this which is just like gobsmacking. Headline: Police officer who slapped teenager during youth program keeps job. An off-duty police officer who slapped a 15-year-old girl while he was leading a youth program has kept his job. Police decided not to prosecute the man because they determined that the slap was not hard enough. Due to minimal level of force and lack of injury, police decided not to prosecute the officer. He was issued with a formal written warning for common assault. Police said the officer was sanctioned after an employment investigation over the incident, but wouldn't provide more details. It goes on for a little bit. But just the insanity of that. Like, in any job, if you assaulted a teenage girl or boy, but like particularly I think a teenage girl, people frown upon that more.
That is insane. That is actually insane. Like, I worked in hospitality for many, many years, and believe me, there was many a bitch that I was like, I just want to slap them. I just need to slap them. You just don't. You just don't, because you're like, actually, I need to pay my bills. So please refrain from assaulting the customer, even though you really want to. Like, oh my God, that's terrible.
It's the only job in the world where you can get away with shit like that.
Yeah.
But what's even more crazy is that he was there. He wasn't even there in his capacity as a police officer. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's a fucking youth worker.
Leading a youth program.
Imagine slapping one of the kids that you work with. Like, it's just like... It's so unhinged, like...
Yeah, it's preposterous, like...
And you would keep your fucking job.
So crazy.
It just feeds back into that whole thing too around power and the imbalance of power and how that's exercised by these people who... You're like, you're not responsible enough to have that kind of power. Like, you need to stay home and just stay there. Just stay home.
Yeah. And reading that today... I remember, like, I thought about my own interactions with police. The first time I was assaulted by a cop, I was 13 years old. And, like, at the time, I didn't think much of it. But, like, looking back, 13 is tiny. Like, 13 is so small. And he, like, grabbed me by the throat and choke slammed me into a wall. It's like this big, burly cop. And it's just like, that's... And... I guess the frustrating thing is, like, you see, you know, one of these news stories say about the 15-year-old girl that was slapped, and there'll be all these people who are saying, "Oh, I bet she did something." And it's
what
like,
did she do?
Yeah, and it's like, I
don't
give a fuck what she did.
Yeah,
like, nothing calls for that, especially if you're the person with the authority and the power in the situation.
Also, how easy is it to diffuse whatever most situations, especially with teenagers? You know, it doesn't take fucking a genius to do it.
Yeah, they're surprisingly compliant.
Yeah.
They are.
What time are we at, Dan?
Just about now.
Sweet. Should we wrap up? Is there anything else?
Sure, that was abrupt. Was
it?
Yeah, was I rabbit holing about the cops again?
No, I just thought maybe it's been an hour. We can talk about the cops some more. What's the 3 things you hate about cops most, Todd?
Their faces, and their profession.
All right.
Great.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on our stupid podcast.
It's not a stupid podcast. I love your guys' podcast.
Oh,
shucks.
You hear that, Dan? Dan has been begging at the podcast all week. Sucks, I want to do this shit with you guys.
Yeah.
Fucking hate this.
Dan was saying we should break it up.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
We had to give him some meth to let him keep it going.
Oh, fuck, here we go.
Thanks so much, Elyssia. It was real nice to meet you. And when I make it back, hopefully you're performing or something, or you come to Melbourne and do some shows.
I would love to bring Reclamation to Melbourne. I think it would actually do quite well there.
Oh, yeah.
I actually know a theatre person in Melbourne. You should remind me. I'll connect you with them.
I will remind
They do
you.
awesome. They do awesome stuff over there too.
Cool.
Make it happen. I've got free
Thank you for having me.
I got free accommodation out here in Craigieburn. It's beautiful.
My siblings all live in Melbourne too, actually.
Oh.
Don't ask me where. They have told me many times. And I have been to Melbourne. I've just got a terrible memory of names.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say Craigieburn, and I was just like, oh,
please
God.
say Craigieburn. It's actually like a hotbed.
He lives spitting distance from the airport.
It's a hotbed of Polynesian culture as far as Melbourne goes.
Interesting. I'll make a mental note of that.
Is it?
Yeah, hard out. So should I go into this? This is boring for listeners. Well, my flatmate's a Samoan and Fijian, and I'd lived in the city for ages, and felt, I don't know, somewhat isolated there, culturally, and came out here. And the first time we all went to a supermarket together, I just started noticing, because I was with them, I was like, fuck, there's Polynesians everywhere. And then we went down the international foods aisle, and there was a section that had all like the Polynesian favorites.
I actually think my cousin lives in Craigieburn now that I'm thinking.
Oh, shit. Well,
New Ians are actually taking over Melbourne, guys, if you didn't know.
oh, it's good. This place needs it.
Yeah.
All
right. Is that us?
Yeah, sure.
Fuck, I'm stoned.
Thanks so much, Elyssia.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Can I go now?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Thanks so much.
See ya.
Bye-bye.